discussed nga on how to build interaction through the use of the STIMS or repetitive behaviors of your children. And okay, so I'm going to screen share now. Here you go. Here. Okay, so I'm just going back at with some of the slides that I've discussed before. So all of us would get a refresher from. So I've listed down some terms and definitions that were very helpful. And okay, so ASD is autism spectrum disorder, as we all know. Most of you who's watching has children or are very much exposed to children who are diagnosed with ASD. Then we have our repetitive behavior. When I say repetitive behavior, we categorize it with low or high order. Actually, with where I work, we don't actually categorize it as high or low. It's just it's either the child is ready or the child is still building up communicating with you or interacting. So we have a lot of hand flapping, fidgeting, body rocking, vocalizations, routines and rituals, insistence on sameness, or intense interests. So yung sa high order, yung routines and rituals, I think it's very much present with a lot of kids who are diagnosed with ASD. A lot of parents would struggle like before when they would go to school, then suddenly there's a typhoon, then canceled yung classes or they're suspended. Children would have a hard time grasping the idea that they wouldn't go on the same routine as any other days. Okay, then we had self-stimulating. Self-stimulating behaviors are what we also call the repetitive behaviors of our children. Why do we want to address to it as self-stimulating? It's because we want to educate a lot more people for us to be aware then. These children, they do this repetitive behaviors that we call to self-stimulate themselves. Why do they self-stimulate? It's actually because they help themselves in some situations or scenarios. Children who are diagnosed with ASD usually self-stimulate during overwhelming moments for them. Example, if they're out in the park or in the mall, a lot of things are happening. They see a lot of things moving. They could also smell a lot of things all at the same time. So these things are actually overwhelming for our kids, which is why they do the repetitive behavior. It's actually their sort of meditation. If if there are others here who do yoga, so let's just think of it as if it's their own kind of yoga. They meditate to it, and that's the way that they help themselves. They relax with their self-stimulating behaviors. Okay, I'm going to skip to this part. Then these are some of the basic slides that I've gone through before. How are repetitive behaviors or STIMS key to building trust? Okay, so I would want to emphasize on the word trust. Why do I want to emphasize on it? It's because we actually cannot, or it would be hard for us to encourage our children to interact with other people if they're not familiar with that person. Remember when we were taught as kids not to talk to strangers, and we feel uncomfortable, especially around strangers or people that we don't know. And it's just the same with our children who are diagnosed with ASD. So you still have to build that friendship. You're still on that level. You need to introduce yourself well, if not through vocab communication. You could also show them gestures as if you're very open to who they are and what they're interested in. So number one, they do it for a reason. Just like I told you earlier, they do it because they're overwhelmed. And there are a lot of reasons why children could be overwhelmed, not just actually children with ASD. Even for us adults, we can be overwhelmed with a lot of things that are happening around us. So it's self-soothing for them as well. As I told you, it helps them calm themselves. It helps them relax. One way that you could also help your children during self-stimulating behavior is to actually join them in the behavior. Why? It's because it gives them the sense of um, predictability around them. They can predict what's going to happen because they see you joining them in the activity. Let's say it's hand flapping. You see, if your child hand flaps and you hand flap with them, and they get the gist of, oh, this person is joining me in this activity. Let's see if I just flap one hand, then you do the same. Then he or she would get the idea that, oh, okay, whatever it is that I'm actually doing, she's actually doing too. So it means we're sending this signal that we're very user friendly for our kids. We're not complicated to be with. We're not complicated as playmates. And most of all, we don't force them in anything that they don't want to do at the moment. Okay, so let's go to comfort zone. So just like any of the other points that I've told you, we all have our own comfort zones, which we consider our safe space. Like us, our children also want to be in control of what happens around them. Of course, who doesn't want predictability in life, right? There are also people who wants to know what would happen in their future. And it's actually, in that way, you could also like prepare for what you think is going to happen. And for these kids, of course, they, as much as they want surprises with the toys, they also don't want to be surprised with, let's say, certain changes in a routine, or one day they wake up, daddy's not there at this certain hour, diba? They're very particular with the time and, of course, with their activities. So they stick to their comfort zone at the moment. But of course, that's why we're doing this, is to also help them to be flexible. Okay, so it is also a form of communication. Communication manifests in many forms. It is not only through the forms of verbal communication. If we pay attention to our child's signals, we then become very user-friendly to them. Okay, we have verbal and non-verbal communication. And these STIMS are actually signals. Let's say if you don't want to call it communication, you can call it like signals that your child is going through something, is feeling something, or is overwhelmed with something, and maybe you need to tone down a bit with the electric fan, tone down a bit with your music. You could move slowly so that your child could also adapt to what's happening. You know, so they could also have this time allowance wherein they could and say adjust to what's happening around them. Okay, so this is actually where I stopped. One important, let's say, one important attitude of a parent, or let's say any other individual that you would want to expose to your child, would be they should be loving, or really not should, but you know, you would want to encourage people who are surrounded with your children to be loving towards them. In what ways can you show your child that you love them more than you could ever say? Okay, so the question actually asks you, what ways can you show? You know, there are a lot of there are a lot of love languages. You can easily say to a person that I love you. Of course, you can easily say that. You can read it from any book, any message. You can type it down and just read it. You can whisper it to yourself, whisper it even to a stranger. I think what's more challenging and what's more believable, what would mark in a person's life, is the actions that marks the love that you show. So, I would, if you would be generous enough to share in the comment section, what's your favorite gesture or action, or what's your favorite love language towards your kids, then I would gladly read it as I go on to my slides. Okay, let's go to some that I've written down. Actions of affection. We have hugs, kisses, maybe a high five, a tap on the back, or when the child's crying, you can just easily wipe their tears and say it's okay. These small things, even for us, helps us too. Like if people would be affectionate towards us, like me, I'm a very touchy person. So with the child that I'm working with, I always greet him with a, with a tight hug. I ask for a kiss. And that's where our comfort zone is. He knows that he could sit on my lap, he could just hug me anytime. And for me, even if he doesn't say it back, or even if I tell him that I love him and he doesn't respond, but he looks into my eye, you know, it's actually more touching for me, because I know that he's paying attention and he heard that I said I love him. And even if it takes him like 5 to 10 seconds to respond, it's fine. Even if he doesn't respond with I love you too, as long as he hugs me, I'm way better than receiving just the words. Okay, then let's go to words of affection. So those are the I love yous. It's gonna be okay. Or let me tell you how I can help you. So these are some of the words of affection that you can pour into your child while you're interacting with them. Providing for their needs. Okay, so I know that a lot of you are parents who are watching, and not just for children with ESD, though. I think this is really one of the main responsibilities of parents. I'm not yet a parent myself, but a lot of people who were surrounding me while growing up have really provided so much for my needs. And these are the people whom I know that I could run to when I have problems, and I know who wouldn't judge me as a person. And just the fact that you could um, providing for the needs doesn't really have to be materials. You don't have to be really materialistic about it. It's not the toys, it's not the pens, it's not the crayons, or it's not the writing pads. You could be providing for their needs, as if they need silence, you can provide it to them. If they need space, you can just leave them alone for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. If you're sensitive enough for what your child really needs at the moment, then it just gives them that kind of comfort. It gives them the message that, okay, this person really knows me well, or this person tries to know me well because she's trying to reach out and know what I need at the moment, and she respects that. And that way, we can show that we love our kids so much. Okay, then spending time with them. I know that a lot of parents try to juggle their time, like in a typical family setting. Um, some would have 3 or maybe 5 kids inside the house. And with the situation now, with the pandemic here in the Philippines, if there are people who are watching like abroad or in another country, we're still in that setup of online. We teach our kids online, and it's hard to juggle time, like split yourself into, let's say, how many, just so you could provide time for, let's say, 3 kids at home. Then you would still need to do chores. I think it's just a matter of priority and time management. It doesn't really matter if you sit with your child 3 to 5 hours in the day, especially with our children with autism. Diba? Like what I said, they're really up for routines, scheduling. So they know, they have that clock in their head that at 1 o'clock, guess who enters? It's Ate Ange. It's Ate Ange, and on Friday she doesn't go here because she's on her day off. But the rest of the days, just expect that your child would be there waiting for you. They know that it's your time for them. And if you just set that schedule, it would also help you a lot, because you wouldn't need to feel guilty at the same time that I haven't been spending so much time with my kid. So if you just allot really a time, let's say 1 hour in the day, and that way, your child knows that you're very, let's say, you're true to what you say. You keep promises. I go to you at 4 to 5 o'clock and I will be there every day. So that could also be a love language. Okay. And lastly, for loving is to be user friendly, like what I told you before. In our generation now, we're more into smartphones, right? Unlike before, like I also got to experienced those phones wherein you still have to click on them. Like, it wasn't touch screen pa before. So, keypad pa siya. And it was really hard to study how to, let's say, operate a phone or a tablet, or let's say a very complicated computer. But then we go for what's very user friendly, easy to understand, easy to, to manage every day, easy to use. And that's also that's also the deal with our kids. They like people who are user friendly. Why? It's because they have struggles or they have challenges in communicating what they need. I'm talking about the non-verbal kids, okay, or maybe less verbal kids. They have a hard time trying to build their sentences in their head, trying to build their thoughts, and of course, trying to voice it out. So if you're that user-friendly, let's say you're still trying to build an interaction with your child, and your child just says, pop. That's it. It's just pop. It's just one word, one plain word, pop. And it's really just up to you. Like, you could offer your child maybe, oh, maybe you want a balloon. Let me show you a balloon. I can pop a balloon. Then you can build sentences on it. You see, with one word, one keyword, pop, you can already offer them a lot of activities. You can offer them a lot more words to actually help them in the future to communicate more with people or with you. Okay. Then let's go to accepting. After loving is accepting. So the question is, what sort of actions and gestures show your child that you truly and fully accept them for who they are? Let me just share you a certain scenario before. There was this phase, let's say maybe it was 3 months maximum, that we got to a phase where the child hits every day. He hits me on the face, he pulls my hair tie. That's the reason why I chopped my hair short, so that there wouldn't be a lot of tugging inside the room. And I've also had broken like glasses, I think 3 times already. It was when he was upset. It happens when he's upset. Or with the glasses, I think it's because of the glare of the light, like the reflection of the light. I think he gets distracted by it. So I tried to just take off my glasses whenever I interact with him. It's actually both for my safety and for us not to break the interaction. So I got to a phase where I really got beaten up inside the playroom. He would chase me with his hand and would just slap me really, really hard. And at that time, I questioned myself, why is he doing this? Do I just go out? Do I get mad? What kind of emotion do I show? Of course, I wouldn't deny that I really got hurt physically. But the challenge for me there was to check on my attitude, check on what I believed in. I've seen this child grow almost more than a year, and this is just a phase. That's what I kept reminding myself. This is just a phase. It doesn't define him for who he is as a person. I know this kid as a very loving, affectionate child. He's very sweet. And maybe there's just something that's bothering him. That's why he's doing this. And then we actually consulted with someone in the US. His name is Gerd Winkler. I think I've mentioned him before. He's the founder of Global Autism Solutions Approach. He's been very helpful for our team. And he just told us to be firm yet loving. So when you're firm, don't think that you're being harsh towards your child. So the tips that he said was, actually, I'll give this to everyone as a bonus, that when your child hits, you just tell them, I don't want to be hurt. I'm actually here to play with you. If you want, I can give you space. Then you just physically move away from your child. If your child attacks you, let's say attacks you, like goes after you, then that's a time that you could say, I really don't want to be hurt. Here, you could offer a buffer. You could offer maybe something soft, a huge pillow, a therapy ball, then you could say, you can hit the ball if you like, but I don't want to be hurt. If he still continues to hurt you, then that's the time that you could be firm and say, you know what, I've been hurt and I'll just go out for a while. I'll give you time for yourself. I'll come back when you're ready to play. See, it gives them that kind of message that, oh, okay, when this person leaves, it means that maybe I've done something that made her leave. And with our message that I'll come back when you're ready to play. And when you still have that energy, when you come back, that, hey, are you ready to play? I think we can play about maybe bubbles. Bubbles are fun. You know, your aura really speaks a lot to your children. When you enter to them again and show them that you're still ready, it just shows them that you're accepting them for that moment. That, okay, she doesn't want to be hurt, but look, she still came back. She's still ready to play. She still wants to play with me. And she kept her word that she would come back 3 to 5 minutes when I'm ready to play. So let me know, what are your gestures, or what kind of actions do you give to your child that shows them that you really accept them for who they are. I think for parents, a parent's love is very unconditional. So it just means that you accept your child no matter whoever they become. If you have teachers at home extending your team or having therapies at home, it would be smart and effective to find someone who's very loving and accepting towards your child. One step to accepting is, that their mood or their love for your child doesn't change if your child really hurt them physically, or there's something that your child did that made them upset. It's a matter of just acceptance, because remember, it's just a phase. They do it for a reason. It's just a phase. Okay, so here are some responses to accepting. Calm responses to different behaviors shown by the child. Let's say your child spills water on the floor and your floor is carpeted. It's really hard to clean, and let's say you just finished general cleaning. Then that happened. Our children actually shows a triggering, I would call it triggering actions, just as spilling water. It's their kind of actions to trigger you to show emotions and reactions. So the bigger your emotions, the bigger your reactions show, it's actually entertaining for them. Why? Because if I told you, if you watch the part 1, if not, it's uploaded in the YouTube channel. They like animation just like cartoons. So they hold the remote, and if they press play, let's say the way they press play is they pour water on the floor and your face goes like, what happened? Why did you spill it on the floor? See, my eyebrows were moving, my eyes were glistening, my mouth was moving, and I was showing a lot of emotion, a lot of reaction to it, to what they were doing. And it's actually fun for them. Maybe they really don't get the idea that, oh, she's upset. But what's more important for them, or what they give attention to, is the reaction that they get from your face. Okay, so sees nothing wrong with them and or behavior. Okay, so a lot of, let's say, parents want to change or correct their child. I've crossed with some parents before. They say, oh, I want him to change like his playing with the ball, because balls are supposed to be shoot in a basket or maybe bounce, but he plays with the ball, just rolling it. There's actually nothing wrong with what your child is doing. As I've told you, they do it for a reason. They help themselves. And if that's their way to cope with what's happening around them, and if they're really helping themselves, then why would you say it's wrong, right? I think it's more trying to look at the brighter side of each picture. You know, when you have, let's say, you have a plan of a project in front of you, or maybe a building that's built in front of you. You can say that, oh, okay, in the facade, there are not much greenery. But then if you look through it from another angle, from another perspective, there's actually one perspective there where you win a very accepting and loving attitude towards whatever your child is showing you. Okay, so does not let a diagnosis limit the possibilities that we see in them. Okay, I know that a lot of parents have been told that, I'm sorry, but I don't think your child would be able to speak. I'm sorry, but I don't think that your child would be able to go to a typical school, wouldn't be um, wouldn't be acknowledged or even entertained in a regular school. But I think as parents or as family members of children with autism, it's very important that, okay, you take those limiting beliefs of other people towards your children as a healthy challenge for yourself, that you know that you believe in your child and you know that your child would be able to, let's say, overcome the challenges that they are facing now. And the one way that you could actually help them through that is to be very loving and accepting towards them, user friendly. That's only the key. Okay, so let's go to another attitude that's very important, which is non-judgmental. The best way possible to make someone feel loved, cared for, understood, accepted is to live by a non-judgmental attitude. Okay, non-judgmental in a way that for our children, let's say you're in the mall, you see a family with someone who has ASD, then suddenly the child has tantrums, would just lie on the floor, cry, break down on the floor, and a lot of people would stare. You would even hear people saying, what's wrong with the child? And why does the parent even just let the child cry in front of the crowd? Why don't they discipline their child? That's actually just the society talking to you. So my tip for that is to just really shrug off any negative belief, negative vibe that would maybe eat you, because it wouldn't be helpful for you. You would just be stressed over it. And it also wouldn't be helpful for your child. Why? Because if you let those negative beliefs toward your child eat you up, then basically it would affect how you look at your child and their actions, their behavior. Okay, I would want to emphasize love, cared for, understood, and accepted. How is it equal, or how does it reciprocate to being non-judgmental? Actually, if you really love someone, care for, understand, and accept someone, the best way for you to show it to them is to be non-judgmental, meaning you give them the benefit of the doubt. You give them the benefit of the doubt at first, and later on you could just ask them, right? If we're going through something, even us, not just our kids, if we're going through something and just a person tells you, oh, this person is so toxic, like she doesn't want to talk today to anyone. But what they don't know is maybe you're just going through something at that time, right? If you're a non-judgmental person, if you really care for this person, the first thing that you would do is give them space. If you see that they're really aloof with a lot of people, then let's say it would take them time to share, then you could just ask, how are you feeling? Are you okay? I've noticed that you don't talk to a lot of people right now. If you want to talk to someone, I'm just here. But you wouldn't impose to them that I want to help you, talk to me, just share it to me, share it to me. Still need to give respect to those people. And that's the thing with our kids, as I've told you earlier. If they cry and you don't know the reason why behind their crying, then you could just give them space. You could just easily tell them, you know what, I don't understand what's wrong right now. Maybe if you're calm, then we could talk about it. You could tell me what's wrong. Then just wait until your child sobers down. Doesn't matter if it takes 5, 10, 15 minutes. Others would last, let's say, 30, 1 hour. Nagtatantrums pa din yung bata. But just your presence there, showing them that I'm patiently waiting for you. I'm not pressuring you to, do whatever it is that I want you to do if you don't want to do it. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, okay, then I would just be friendly here. I would be just sitting here. I wouldn't move a lot, so I wouldn't be a big distraction, or I wouldn't overwhelm you too. So what traits do we need to work on to be non-judgmental towards our children? Let's go to some of them. Okay, the first one would be respect. Okay. How do we show respect to our children? Number one, give importance to their STIMS and their interests. When I say give importance to their STIMS and interests, is don't try to stop it. Because when you try to stop it, you're actually trying to tell them to stop helping yourself. Or you're trying to stop them from their kind of comfort. Number two, help them soothe overwhelming situations. Okay, as I've told you, STIMs are actually signals or communication that your child is actually overwhelmed already. So what you could do to help them is maybe ask, is it the fan? Or maybe, is it because the windows are open? Or maybe I could offer you earphones so that your sense of hearing could be clogged at the moment. I can offer you cotton inside your ear so that you wouldn't hear that much of the noise. Or maybe there's something wrong with their foot. Maybe it hurts, or maybe they have a wound, and you could just tell them, okay, you could just show me where's painful, where's ouchy. If they don't talk, let's say, I usually do this with the child that I worked with before. He would just cry, and I would just ask him, what's wrong? He wouldn't answer. Then I would ask him, are you hungry? He still wouldn't answer. He would just cry. Then I asked him again, is something painful? He didn't answer. What I tried was to change the word painful, because I had in mind that maybe he doesn't know the word painful yet. So I tried to ask, is there something ouchy? Then he said, yes. He nodded, he paused, crying, said yes. Then I asked him again, okay, where's ouchy? You can point. Then he didn't speak. He continued crying even louder. Then what I tried was, the song, head, shoulders, knees or toes, knees or toes. So I tried to ask him, where is painful? Is it the head, shoulders, knees, or toes? Then we did the actions. Then I paused, gave him 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to ask you again. Where's ouchie? Then he pointed his head. Then after a few days, let's say 2 to 3 days, we actually got to the root cause why he was crying. It was really because of his head. He had a headache, and it was because he was going to lose a tooth. So, our dentist always tells us to take care of your teeth, because if you get a toothache, it actually affects your head. Like, you would basically get a headache if you get a toothache. So we got to know that there was a tooth that was about to fall off, and that was the cause of his headache, which was also the cause of his crying. Okay, so let's go to do not assume. Okay, when we do not assume, what do we mean by assume? Okay, here are points to remember. Change is constant. Your kids are also up for surprises. And number 3, our days might be alike, but they will never be exactly the same. Okay, I would want to emphasize more for a while on the word assume. With the example that I gave earlier with the headache, I was trying to be user-friendly in a way and non-judgmental in a way that I didn't assume that he cried because his balloon popped. I didn't assume that maybe he doesn't want to play with me right now, or maybe he just doesn't want me near him. I didn't assume that he was just acting out that way, or maybe I couldn't help him. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk. That's why he's been crying the whole time. What I did was I tried to be a smart detective. I tried to really dig in to what I think would be the main reason why he could be crying. In that way, I didn't just give up. I didn't just assume that there's nothing that I can do. He doesn't want to talk, so I wouldn't understand him anyway. I could just leave the room and just let him be, but I didn't do that because I didn't assume that there's nothing that I can do towards it. Okay, when I say change is constant, this is actually also helpful for parents. Let's say we buy our kids so much toys, right? Let's say in the mall, he tells you, I want Paw Patrol. Just keep saying Paw Patrol. Then you buy him lots of Paw Patrol toys. Or you give him a lot of balloon, a lot of trucks because that's his interest. Then you go to them and try to interact with them. You bring them the toy which you have in mind that this is the cartoon character that he really loves. He really loves Paw Patrol. He loves Marshall in Paw Patrol. I know that my kid would interact with me this way because this is his greatest motivation of all. Then he just tries to just sit there, doesn't mind you, doesn't give you any reaction, and just scribbles on the paper because that's what he wants at the moment. Then the next day, what you do is you don't bring the Paw Patrol anymore. Okay, my tip for you is to just keep bringing it. Keep on bringing it because you'll never know. Maybe it was just this day that he didn't want to play with that Paw Patrol or that specific toy because he was interested with something else. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't want to play with it or he doesn't want to play with you with that toy for the rest of his life. So don't give up on your idea. Do not assume that he wouldn't like it anymore or that he changed his mind or that he changed his interest. Just like us, our moods, right? Our moods also change. And that's also the deal with our kids. They could be interested with a balloon now, and tomorrow they wouldn't. But let's say 2 weeks from now, they're all about balloons again. So just keep on offering activities. If they shrug it, then it's fine. Just keep it with you. Offer it on another day. And you'll see, they'll accept it. Sunday, you would have fun playing with that toy with your kid. Okay, your kids are also up for surprises. Um, let's say you keep offering something, right? Let's go with the same toy so that we would have a flow with the examples. You offered Paw Patrol and it was, let's say, a dice. Then what your mechanics were to get the highest points on the dice. Let's say dice has 1 to 6. Your child rolls it, you got 6. Or your child got 6 and you only got 2. So basically your child won. So your kids are also up for surprises. In what way could you offer a game that's gonna be surprising for your child? Do not assume that they just want a toy to be played that way, like a dice to be played that way. You could also offer them a game that you could balance a dice on top of your head, and that would also be fun. Or maybe a very sturdy dice, maybe made of wood, and you could stand with 1 foot. Let's say whoever can balance the longest wins, right? So they're up for surprises. Bring up your creativity. Be creative with your children. Be imaginative and just keep on offering. Let's say if your child doesn't accept or doesn't embrace the changes now, it doesn't mean that they're not flexible tomorrow or the next days for the change of the game that you're trying to offer. Okay, our days might be alike, but they will never be exactly the same. Let's say it's been 1 week, you're offering the same game, but he still tries to say, no, I don't want to play this. I want to play with something else. I know you want that toy so much, Mom. You keep offering it to me. You offered it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's say, okay, maybe he really doesn't want to play with this toy. But then you just let the toy sit on a shelf or on a chair. Then you see your child glancing at it, just looking, keeps looking at it. And that's one change that that you're closer. You could introduce, look at the colors on that, guys. They're so amazing. Let's name the colors. And that's also one game that you could introduce your child to the toy gradually. You could break it into pieces, like you could count something from the images on the toy, or you could identify the colors of the toy. So if you'd be very, let's say, attentive, you're very aware of what's happening, even with the small changes or smallest gestures of your child, you would know that it's basically not just the same day over and over again. There's change, there's growth. And if you want to look at it that way, then you would be more motivated to interact with your children. Okay, third is be patient. We also need to be patient. I often tell or teach our kids to be patient. The thing is, we might also need to be encouraged to be patient, not only with our kids, but with ourselves too. Okay, a lot of people or a lot of adults while I was growing up kept telling me, you need to be patient with life. Shouldn't be that excited to be a teenager. You shouldn't be that excited because when you get to work, you would know what the real life is. And with kids, though it's basically simpler, but it's still the same thing. You also need to be patient with them. You need to be patient that maybe today they try to learn as quickly as they can. You try to teach them math and, let's say, addition, then they were able to answer almost everything. Then tomorrow they're just not in the mood for math, and they're not that ready yet to interact with you same way as they did yesterday. But it doesn't mean that you should give up on what your goals are with your child. You also have to be patient with your children and with your goals. Okay, reminder that this is also a trial and error process. With trial and error, what I mean is you can also experiment with your children. It's actually a learning process wherein you try to offer a lot of things and you get to know how your child reacts to it, and what or where your child is really most motivated with. We too are learning from them. With learning, it's actually more of we learn how to be more effective towards our child. How can we be more of help towards them? Chunk down even the simplest activities into something even more simpler. Okay, so as I've told you earlier, with the toy, you can just talk about the colors today. Tomorrow, maybe you can talk about the animals on the toy. Let's say it's a puzzle, a farm, or a barn puzzle. There are a lot of animals. Let's say just show them the whole puzzle, the whole picture. Look, we have animals. What color is the barn? Then maybe tomorrow you can count, and the next day you can do half of it. Or you can number actually the puzzles at the back, wherein they can match verse 1. Okay, put it on the slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. So it's really just about modifying. That's the word or the term. Modify your activities with your children. Just break it down, feed them little by little, and you'll see the next day they would try to embrace the whole activity. Who knows, they might initiate them with themselves too. Okay, then another is do not expect. Okay, motivate over expectations. Expectations is really such just a huge word for me. You see, if you have expectations towards your children or towards yourselves or towards your work, then there's a high possibility that you might fail your expectations of yourself or towards your child. Instead of focusing on what to expect, focus on how to inspire, encourage, motivate, and engage with your children. once you set expectations, you also need to expect that there are days that your expectations will not be all met all at the same time. Focus on what is positive. Okay. I'm not saying that expectations are negative or try to shrug off expectations. What I'm trying to say here is instead of focusing on what you think your goal is, like I expect my child to enter school at maybe 7, would be at grade 1. I expect him to finish grade 1 because, he's 7 years old. By 8 years old, he should be grade 2 already. So these expectations are actually what breaks you and your heart the most. It's because you're set on that already. That's what you see. That's the only path that you see. Wherein, there are a lot of paths in a tree. There are also a lot of branches that you could also venture out. Like you could do adventures on maybe on another branch and leads you to another path. Let's say, okay, your child may not be that good with verbal communication, but then you see there are a lot of changes increasing and positive changes in eye contact, which is actually one challenge for children with autism. And hooray for you, if that's the deal. It takes one step at a time. It doesn't really have to be the whole chart to be checked all at the same time. So just limit your expectations. Try to motivate yourself more than you expect of the outcome. Okay, so just a recap. To be non-judgmental, should be respect, do not assume, be patient, and do not expect. Okay, then let's go to, it's also important for you to embrace their totality. With embracing totality, I think with parents, it's not that hard. But if there are professionals here, or let's say volunteers, or even with the nannies, like the yayas, you just tell them that what they're doing now doesn't define them as a person. Let's say if your child tries to spit on you now, it doesn't mean that he hates you. And it doesn't mean that he's going to do that for the rest of his life. Find a person who would embrace your child on the good days and more on the bad days. Okay, so best way to make our children feel loved is to embrace them not only physically, but to assure them that they are loved and will always be loved no matter what. Okay, when we say no matter what, basically that's what I've explained there in kanina, during good and bad days. Just like in a relationship, in marriages, through better or for worse, right? In sickness and in health, you're still there for each other. And that's also the deal with our children. Okay, this is actually very important to meet halfway. As much as you want the best for your children and to see them reach their highest potential ever, it is still best to start meeting them halfway. If not, be with them where they are now. Okay, so with children, we also need to negotiate or compromise. Let's say your child isn't that ready yet for an activity, then just bend backwards, go where they're interested with now. That's the key, because when you show them that you're also interested with what they're interested in, and you're giving them that respect that, okay, maybe we'll focus on what you want to do today. Then tomorrow, maybe you could give mommy the chance to offer the game again. It's actually comforting in a way that the person really listens, or your parents really listen to what the child needs or what the child wants for today. When I say be with them wherever they are, this is a term that I've learned in Sunrise. I think Miss Josie have mentioned before from our previous that I also attended some of the Sunrise courses. And what they would want you to imagine is that there's a bridge between you and your child. Let's say you're in this part of the bridge, of that end of the bridge, and your child is here. So what you try to do is go over that bridge and just show them that you love them. You want to be with them, whatever it is that they're doing on their side of the bridge. And then when they're very comfortable enough with us, that's the time that slowly we invite them that, hey, maybe we can go over the bridge, maybe just halfway. Then later on, you could also invite them. How about we try to visit where I live? It's on the other side of the bridge. I can show you. It's also amazing on that part of on that side of the bridge. So it's just a matter of not forcing, giving respect, and just be willing enough to join them in whatever it is that they're interested with right now. Okay, it's also important to be fully aware. When I say fully aware, that's where you try to detect everything, even the smallest gestures, even just the smallest glances, quickest glances. It's actually important that you put on your, let's say, binoculars, try to zoom in what's happening, what are they doing, and you would see there are small changes that could expand to bigger changes in the future. Pay attention to what your child wants when we listen carefully to what our child wants. This is when we are most helpful to them and their needs, which is actually true even for us. If you know someone who's there always willing to listen to you, you know that it's very helpful that you get to vent out something, or you get to vent out your emotions to someone. And this is the deal with our kids too. If they know that, ooh, I know that mommy's been listening. I know that when I say balloon, magic, there pops a balloon in her hand. Or when I say, cotton candy, then mommy would immediately draw a cotton candy for me, which we can also color later on together. So it's just a matter of just paying attention. That's also key when dealing with your children or spending time with your children. Let's say you allot 1 hour in a day to be with your kids. Make sure that that 1 hour is just allotted for your child alone. Free your mind from everything that could be external at the moment. Let's say free your mind from the laundry, from what to cook for dinner. Let's say, have I ironed the clothes? I think I don't have detergent anymore. Those external factors that could also affect your attention with your child. So just be mindful that when you give time to your children, give them 110%, even your mind. Okay, so let's go to what. It's also important to be to open your ears to what they have to say. But with listening, I would want to be very broad about it. It's not just about what they say verbally. Listening does not only imply with verbal communication. Let our senses be put into test. Be the best and most effective detective for your child. When I say listening, your nose also needs to have ears. Your eyes also need to have ears. Your skin needs to have ears. Why? It's because some kids are very, let's say, they're not that verbal enough yet. And it's important that you also have ears for your eyes, for your nose, and other senses. Okay, so just a recap. Embrace your totality, be fully aware, meet halfway, and listening are also important keys for you to be able to engage with your children. Okay, so let's see. I think I can give just this one slide at the moment, if that's fine. Okay, play ideas. I'm so sorry. I think we're lacking time again. But okay, I'll give you this because I know that a lot of parents are really waiting for this, the play ideas that I could offer for them and their children. Okay, a lot of families or a lot of households have dominoes. Okay, these are some of the ideas that I could give you. You could play longest line, build a road. Let's say if your children are keen with vehicles, you can build a road with your dominoes, build a bridge with your dominoes, build a tower with your dominoes. Okay, you can also do a typical domino game wherein you could also match the numbers, just the simplest mechanics of domino. and use it for mathematics. If you're familiar with dominoes, they have, let's say, 3 dots at the top and 2 dots at the bottom. You can say, what's 3 plus 2? You can write it on the board, tape the domino. Then you can count the dots on the domino. Then you can say 5, right? So it could be used in a lot of ways. Don't be very conventional. Don't be very, let's say, old school with the toys. Be very much creative. Let your imagination work for these children and for the toys that you could use. Be resourceful. Okay, balloons. Balloons are also fun. I suggest that when you buy balloons, you wash them. You wash them at home. Then just put, let's say, rice flour on it so that you could retain the durability of the balloons. Why do I suggest that you wash them? It's because of the powder that they use in the balloons. It has chemicals. It's really bad for your health and for your children. Or some may be allergic, like they would have hives, or their eyes would get itchy, they would have runny nose. Okay, you can do color match with your balloons. You can do a balloon surprise. You can insert something inside the balloon and you can let your children guess, look, what does mommy have inside the balloon? Maybe you could guess. Maybe we could look through the balloon and see what's inside. Then we wait for the balloon to pop. Color mixing. Color mixing is fun. I used to do this with the child that I work with. You put, let's say, yellow inside of blue. Yellow balloon inside the blue balloon, then you blow it up. Then you could show how colors mixes. Blue plus yellow makes green. So, you could teach them primary, secondary colors, even with the balloons. Okay, because I just recall before, how they teach primary and secondary colors, tertiary colors, was through the color wheel, which could be very overwhelming for our children, and it could be like boring for our children. So if they're into balloons, you could offer this to them. Okay, pass the balloon. You just pass the balloon. Let's say you can incorporate whatever they want, maybe a song. Let's say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then you take turns. Then whoever gets Z, the balloon at Z and the end, pops the balloon, then gets the prize inside, right? So you're the winner. Okay, a sorting game. This could also be like for the color match. You sort your balloons maybe through sizes, through designs, or their colors. And then also make figures. I think a lot of you are familiar with what a clown does during birthday parties. Believe it or not, we've been through that phase too, because he was very, very much into balloons. We actually search in YouTube a lot of techniques on how to make a dog. A balloon, and it was very fun because your child gets to be very verbal with it, like make a dog, and then you could also introduce the sound of a dog, other colors of a dog. You could also draw a face of a dog or design your dogs. Okay, colors with crayons. Paint any coloring material. You can do color mixing, just like with the balloon that I said earlier. You can put one layer on top of the other and see what the color becomes. Drawing shapes. You can draw shapes, make robots. You can cut them, introduce the cutting or the use of scissors. You can also glue them, make an artwork. Color hunt. You could make, if you have stones and you can paint them, it's like an Easter egg hunt. Then you just put it around their room, keep it maybe under the sheets, under a table, under a chair, tape it underneath their bed. Then you can say, oh, let's see if you can find the red stone. It's just around the room. You could say, oh, you're closer. Let me give you a clue. It's under something that you lie on. It's under the bed. Okay, and you can also say Simon Says. It's very familiar. It's a very famous game. And draw and cut arts, tracing activity. You could also use crayons. If your child doesn't like pencils, because it's very dull, it's just gray. If they're up for any other colors, you can use actually those colored pencils or crayons if they're smaller, just to practice their grip in tracing activities, tracing letters, tracing spell black for Ate Ange. Okay, then you could introduce maybe ASL for kids, PLACK. And that's actually also a gesture. It would be amazing because my child also, the child that I work with, has memorized the alphabet Filipino Sign Language already. And lastly is color sorting. Just like with other activities that I've mentioned, color sorting is very, very much fun because there are a lot of colors. Your children would enjoy them a lot. I think that's it. That's it for the allotted time. Um, yes, Miss Josie.
Okay. Wow.
I'm
There's
going to
so
stop
much.
sharing the pod.
Yeah, yeah. Please do stop share. Um, Actually, there's so much ideas. I really love all those games, and just I
Mhm.
know we lack time again. I know there's more. I know your slides. I
Actually,
know your
there's
slides had more. So I think we really
yes.
need to have
Uh,
part three because there's so much um, plays that you have prepared, and you can only give us those those one slide. But
mhm.
anyway, there's more Wednesdays to come, but we really enjoyed what you share with us, especially that respect, don't expect.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
I
usually
think
when we expect, that's the time that we actually give up. Eh. If we fail one time, there's this instance that maybe you tend to overthink that maybe he just doesn't like to play with this toy, so you stop offering it the next days. What you don't know is maybe it's just your child wasn't ready at this moment. The other days, maybe you could expand on this activity and make it even more productive than what you had in mind.
yes, and if you expect a lot, it's going to give you a great heartaches.
Yes, yes, and that would just feed.
Yes.
Parang that would feed. Just let you eat on negativity. If you get a
Yeah.
heartbreak or if you get upset over something, right?
So
You're just entertaining a lot of negativities in
it's
life.
true. So just better celebrate every progress you see. That's the key.
Yes,
Okay. But
yes,
before
and
we really,
yes.
yeah, and sige, go ahead.
Okay po, just because you just said the word celebrate, I also would want to celebrate all these parents who are very much dedicated in watching not just this part. I've seen parents and kasi in the group who are very dedicated to the group. Like they're very much willing to learn, to educate themselves. Let's say, actually, these parents, you're actually the experts on your children. That's no denial. But then you accept it that it's still a learning process. It's still a work in progress wherein you could learn more on how to help your child and make things easier between you and your child. And that's just very amazing. These parents, you parents are actually worth celebrating every day because you wake up and you can't just, give your children away. Like, I don't want to deal with my child today. Your child is your child. And you just try to embrace where you are now and you embrace your child's totality. And that's really just amazing for every parent that I've encountered in the group. That's really amazing. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for loving your
much.
children.
Thank you, Teacher Ange. Speaking of parents, I would like to
Yes.
say thank you for those parents who have commented on our uh, comment section. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Mommy Pinky, Mommy Cathy, and Mommy Karen. Also, thank you very much. Mommy Karen says, I thank God for lending me strength because I ask what they want to thank God for. And then um, she said, and wisdom in partially and almost done thesis for my master's degree. Wow. So my master's degree siya. And then, Mom, I like what Mommy Pinky says. I appreciate that you mentioned that what they go through is just a phase, a good reminder for us when things get tough. Wow. And then Mommy Amber says, relate much. Okay, relate much daw siya. Okay. So Mommy Sarah says, thank you so much. And Mommy Cara said again, so very interesting topic. I love it so much. I'm learning a lot now. Teacher Ange, thank you. Mom Joseph also for the opportunity. Mommy Lilia says, expectation leads to frustration. That's true. And then,
Yes, that's actually correct.
yeah, Mommy Sheila says, thank you po sa inyo. God bless po, Sir Arnold, sir. Thank you po. Ayan. Please allow me to just very, very quickly lang, parents, share my announcement. This is very important so that you will know what will happen for the rest of this month. Okay, for the rest of this month. So, first on Friday, we're going to have our Autism Family Live prayer. I hope all of you are joining me every Friday. There's a lot of testimonies we are having for parents who are joining the prayer live every Friday. They're really saying all the changes and improvements that God is doing in their kids. So please join us. We can only do so much, all those therapies and everything to our kids, but when God moves, that is when we see miracles happen. And then, of course, for those who are not yet who have not yet attended the free parents coaching on Connections of Love, please do join us. This is free on Saturday, 7:30 p.m. The meeting ID and passcode is already there for those who haven't joined yet. Okay, and especially those who are just beginning in their journey. And then on Wednesday, we don't have Facebook Live, but we're going to have our monthly parents meet up, online meet up in Zoom. Parents, I know this, I mean, all the topics that we're discussing during our parents online meetup are just bonus, but the most important thing is when we we meet together and share with other parents who have the same experiences and who can really understand us the most. Okay, so and our topic, of course, our topic for next Wednesday, we also have a topic that we're just shortly discussing our identifying and avoiding triggers. I know Teacher Angie mentioned this a while ago, but we will discuss it very in detail. So that will be on Wednesday. It's a Zoom meeting. And then lastly, on last Wednesday of the month, we're going to have the 5 C's of home intervention for children with special needs by Dr. Lutze Sol Aplaon Bidal. I already heard her do a webinar, and I really like her. You know, um, she's from UP, and one of my friend, just let let her child be evaluated by her, and she said she's really good, and so we invited her in one of our Wednesdays. So it's going to be on October 27. And then I just want to give you this before we end up and close in prayer tonight. Okay, for strength, just what I really and I know you need for the rest of this week. We need strength. Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. It's through Christ. It is Christ who gives us strength. Nehemiah 8 verse 10, do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. So parents, it is my prayer that we will really find strength in our relationship with God, and the joy of the Lord will bubble up, will really fill our hearts throughout the rest of the week. So I want us to pray this prayer. If you really need this strength right now, just like me, I need strength. Let's pray this. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you that you are my strength. I need you every day. In everything I face every day, I depend on you. Please continue to lead and guide me, especially in helping my awesome child. In your name, amen. Amen. Wow. So thank you for joining. Teacher Ange, thank you. Thank you very much, Teacher Ange, for gracing us. Wala na yung face ni Teacher Ange. But parents, Teacher Ange, last word na lang before we just say goodbye. Any last word? Wala na, hindi na nakasalita si Teacher Ange. Anyway, parents, thank you very much. Good night and God bless. Have a good night rest, everyone. Thank you, Teacher Ange. God bless everyone. Bye. Okay,
Okay,
natapos.
thank you po for everyone who watched
Teacher Ange,
the
nawala ka na. Nawala na tayo.
video.
Hindi na tayo
Sorry.
nag-lag
Thank you
na.
for watching the part 1 and the part
Nawala na tayo. Anyway, Teacher Ange, I hope you can still hear me. Okay. Stop ko lang yung recording.